Welcome to 5 True Singles. This story is from Damion Poitier and was recorded on August 18th, 2013. The theme was Look What I Did, stories of accomplishments, triumphs, and other things we thought we'd never do.
All right, so I was going through my memory banks, which are faulty at best, and trying to figure out what was a good triumph story I could tell that would, kind of tell you guys a little bit about me, share a little bit about me and where I come from and everything. And I was like, okay, we're going to have to go back a few years because the stuff that's happening to me recent, I probably am still under NDAs for, or, I don't want to name names and things like that. So I was like, okay, let's go back. What do we got? What do we got? And I was like, hey, what about that time I almost died? I think I'll tell that story. That's a good story, okay? So this is the single greatest usage of my martial arts training in my life, okay? So when I got out of high school, I started training in martial arts because I wanted to be an action star because, you have to be able to do martial arts if you want to be an action star. Kung Fu movies were huge when I was a kid, and I was like, let's actually train in this stuff. I'm not going to college yet. We actually never got to college, but we weren't going to college yet, so it was like, let's train in martial arts and get some movement under our belt. So I was training for a while, and I got pretty good, and I made a lot of friends that were in the martial arts world, and, a couple years into it, Tekken 3 came out. Any video gamers in here? Yes. You guys remember Tekken 3? Okay, Tekken 3 was the video game where Eddie Gordo, premiered. He was doing capoeira and all that other stuff, and there was like a bunch of different styles. And it was very interesting for me to watch all these different styles meeting in a video game, and I was a little bit of a cocky prick at the time. So I would play Warang, who did Taekwondo, which was my style, and when I would beat someone, I would step back from the console and throw the move. So whatever move I did with Warren to beat you, I'd throw it. And so one day, I was doing that a lot. I was winning. I was pretty good. And this guy stepped back, and he beat me with Eddie Gordo. And he stepped back, and he threw a Maradupa, which is like a backflip. And I was like, so we got, excited. And then we started going out in the parking lot and practicing martial arts. And he was teaching me capoeira, and we were working on Taekwondo, and then some wrestlers and everything. So it was a huge group of us who were doing martial arts in a parking lot of Fun and Games, which is in Framingham, Massachusetts, right? So now Framingham, I lived in Natick, and Framingham is right next door. And Framingham was a little bit of a rougher town. Natick was pretty chill, it was a suburb, and Framingham was trying to be a city. So it was a little rougher, and there were people who were, there were some rougher elements there. And my parents had actually moved me from Philadelphia, where I was born, to Natick to avoid inner city conflicts. So I'm in Framingham, and there's some rougher elements in there, and everything's going good. And there's some people in there that are a little questionable, but for the most part, everything's fine. Well, at the time, I was in a singing group called Chosen Knights with a couple of friends of mine. And they were working at a club called Polyestes, and they were bouncers at the club because we were all martial artists. It was an underage club, so it was like, under 17 all. And one night, this young gentleman was particularly just, he was just in a bad mood. And they got into a row, and they kicked him out a little aggressively. And he was like, hey, my cousin's with the Latin Kings. I know who you are, Chosen Knights. We're going to fuck all y'all up. Y'all all going to die. So all of a sudden, the Chosen Knights, the singing group, was a gang. From Natick, Massachusetts, who had stepped on the toes of the cousin of one of the members of the Latin Kings, who actually are a pretty big gang. So they're like, yeah, we got it, we're gonna get you. Now, a couple of the cats, like Minor, the actual gang member who was the cousin, we knew him. He was like, not a friend, but somebody, hey, what's up, hey, what's up? And he had a bunch of people around him that were trying to be in the life, and we were not. So, it came, so they all showed up at Fun and Games, and they were like, you can't be disrespecting my cousin and this and that, and, saying all the things. And we're like, hey, look, man, we weren't, he was acting like an asshole in the club. He felt up some girl, he had to go, he got lippy, we kicked him out. And I'm like, I'm not even involved, I wasn't even there. So I'm like, yeah, but I'm just standing there like, yeah, he was, my boy said he was being an asshole, he was being an asshole. So he had to go. So they're like, yo, we're gonna have to, we gonna have to handle this, we're gonna handle this, but not here. Meet us at Burger King. So we live right near the Mass Pike, and the Mass Pike has 2 Burger Kings on it. One is in Framingham, and one is in Natick. And late at night, when you're done, you go to Burger King, get something to eat. Now, obviously, they were from Framingham, so they were talking about the Framingham Burger King. We were from Natick, so we went to the Natick Burger King. So we go to our Burger King, they go to their Burger King, and we're like, all right, let's do. Oh, okay, guess they're not gonna show. So the next night, we go back to Fun and Games, we're playing around and everything, and they're like, what the hell? And we're like, what? They're like, you're ducking us. And we're like, no, we were at Burger. And they're like, no, it was the framing. And, you know, there's da-da-da. And it's like, let's do it again. You know, and it's talking. It's like, you know, and I'm like, wait. And I'm like, wait, we're a singing group. And, you know, and he was being, you know, you know your cousin. He was being a dick. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? So we kind of like relaxed a little bit, but it, you know, it was still ill feelings and people were still mad. And this one cat, his name was Junior. Obviously not his full name, but Junior was not a member of the association, but he really wanted to be. And he felt that if he took out one of the chosen knights, that would kind of make him. And so he hung out at Fun and Games all the time, and I hung out at Fun and Games all the time, and I knew him, you know, I knew who he was. And, you know, it just so happened one night that we were there at the same time, and I was out there and playing around. Now, I do need to mention that Junior had seen many of our parking lot demonstrations of our martial arts talents. So he knew who we were and what we could do. You know, and like I said, I was just getting into it, so I was a flashy, cocky prick, and I threw a lot of moves that showed my skill in the parking lot. So, so I go into Fun and Games, and I go in there, and I'm, you know, playing a video game and, you know, doing whatever, and I come out and I see Junior, and he sees me, and we meet eyes. And I'm not really paying attention because it's not occurring to me that this conflict is still active and very serious for the gang members and the would-be gang members, whereas we, the singing group, are kind of like, whatever. You know, so he looks at me, and he kind of gives me a look, and I look at him, and I'm like, what's up? And he walks away, and I walk back in, and I don't think anything of it. And then I come back out, and he's standing there, and he kind of walks like out a little bit, and he kind of he's keeping some distance from me. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, wait a minute. And he's got a really long t-shirt on, and he's not looking me in my eye. And I'm like, these are not good things. So he looks at me and he goes, yo man, this is bullshit. Y'all think y'all running shit, you know? You can't come up in here and be thinking you're running shit, yada yada. And I'm like, we're a singing group. I was like, you know that kid. You know he's a dick. Why are you getting at me about this? He's like, y'all can't, he's like, we gotta make sure y'all know that everybody knows that, you know, what's going on, and y'all can't be doing that. Y'all can't, and I'm like, calm down, man. I'm like, it's not that serious. He got kicked out of a club. I wasn't even there. What are you getting in my face about it for? And he's like, and he's working himself up, and he's pacing back and forth, and his hand is starting to do this. You know, and it's going down towards his crotch. And I'm like, he's got a long shirt on, he's reaching for his crotch, he's not looking at me. I think he's got a gun. And I thought about it, and I watched him, I'm like, okay, he actually does have a gun. He has a gun, okay. So I'm like, I'm trying to talk to him. I'm like, Junior, listen to me. You know, this doesn't have to, I'm doing everything I can to talk him down. He's not listening. I'm raising my voice. I'm cracking jokes. He's not paying attention to me. He's working himself into a froth. This kid intends to shoot me in the parking lot because we kicked out a 16-year-old kid at a club that grabbed some girl's ass. And I'm like, well, this is not good. And I'm trying to think, and I'm thinking about my martial arts skills. And I'm like, what can I do here to stop this? What can I do to diffuse the situation? Because none of the jokes or anything like that is working. So finally, I was like, well, if it has to happen, it has to happen. So I stop and I look at him and I go, Junior, look at me. And he stops. And he doesn't want to look at me. He's not looking at me. And I go, you need to look at me right now. And he slowly looks up and we meet eyes and I go, you know how fast I am. You're not far enough away. If you reach for that, I'm going to kill you. And he stops. He looks at me. And he looks at the distance, looks down at his shirt, looks at me again, takes a deep breath, turns around and walked away. I walked into Fun and Games and was like, Jesus Christ! Oh my God! Oh my God! He was gonna shoot me! Oh my God! Woo! Okay! Wow! 16 years old, he grabbed the girl's ass and kicked him out of the club! We're a singing group, for fuck's sake! Are you kidding me? Yeah. So, yeah. But you know, the martial arts, the whole thing is, you know, if you actually have to get into a fight, you've already lost. I mean, Sun Tzu said that. You know, if you get in a fight, you've already lost. So, I didn't want to kill him. And trust me, if he had tried to reach for that, I probably would have. And wouldn't be telling this story right here today. But fortunately, he looked into my eyes and he saw that I was serious. And I managed to avoid a homicide. So I think that was a
The story that you just heard was true.